I would like to call to order the December 5th, 2022 Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners work session. Welcome, everyone. First item is the approval of the work session agenda. You all have a copy of that before you. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the work session agenda, including the changes on page 2.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. That motion passes. We move now to discussion items. First up is item 3.1 from Infrastructure and Asset Management, Courthouse Expansion Project Update, and we're happy to have Kyle Billiford to talk about that item.
Thank you. And we do have some pictures to show also. Kind of just want to give everybody an update. Obviously, we've had to rethink some of the strategy with material shortages, and I know that I've given a lot of you some walkthroughs so you can kind of see how we've had to hodgepodge it together, but we've also started on the exterior facade. So milestones over the last 30 days were completing out the 4th and 3rd floors, so working from the top down, completing the Church Street hardscape install, and then we'll coordinate the barricade removal with the DOT once we start to open up the building. We're starting on the 3rd floor courtroom millwork, and that's why we only walked a couple of the courtrooms on the 3rd floor when I walked all you through. And we're starting the initial actual project clean from the top down, specifically from mechanical areas on the roof. This image shows you the actual public plaza where you walk in. You can kind of see the stenciling of the art that's on there. Can you scroll down? Yeah, that shows some of the additional design of the public art that is all mapped out and spray painted on that floor in there. And I did show you all, as we walked through, I did show that to you. Over the next 30 days, we'll start to look at turning over the IT rooms to our ITS department. I think that's actually an old attachment also, because I've already shown that to this board. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Lauren. Appreciate it. So that kind of shows the different fire-rated storefront and curtain walls that are going in. Again, most of you were walked through that space, and that'll be as we get down to the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st floor. You'll see a lot more of that go in. We've had to wait for all that material and all that fire stopping to happen. You can just keep on scrolling, and I'll go through the pictures. That shows the exterior canopy. It's about 90% complete. We just have a couple more sunshades to install on that, and that shows the hardscape that'll be on Church Street. So that's what's behind the barricade, been behind the barricade for the last several years. And as we start to open that up, you'll see the Concourse lights go back in on there. And that shows you, that is the large courtroom on level 4. So that's what they call the ceremonial courtroom, but it will be used for court. But that's on the Corbin Street elevation, so it looks out on Corbin Street. And again, most of you saw that, but for those that didn't. So as we start to continue, you'll just see basically what you all saw in the walkthrough, but we'll be getting to complete out floor 3 and move to floor 2. And we're pushing as fast as we can to be able to get the merchandising permit so we can start building out furniture in February. That's our major hurdle to try to get over, to have all your life systems available and working completely so that we can start that install, specifically probably starting with the pews on the 4th floor.
Questions for Kyle?
I've got a couple questions. So when should this building be open to the public, or when will they transition over to this building?
It's convoluted. It's not all of them that are moving over. So you're talking about 11 different entities. So it's not all of them, but the grand opening or the opening of the facility to the public is in May of 2023.
Okay, 2023. All right. And now since I'm new to the board, it's my first evening, what has been the total budget, I guess, or total amount spent thus far, and is it projected to go over anymore? I know it's went over a couple of times potentially, or what, I'm asked this a lot whenever I'm out and about of, what's been the total expenditure?
So you're asking several questions. So you're asking what the level is at right now for the first phase of the project, the demolition, and the building that you see across the street is $93 million.
Okay.
And what you saw the board vote on last month was adding GMP3, which is the renovations of the 1975 courthouse, and that's an additional $27 million. Okay. Those are hard costs, so the construction costs, which is, I think, what you're asking me.
Right, that's
Okay.
correct, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So where do we stand on the material situation? I know that you have explained in the past that the contractor has made a number of adjustments in the sequencing of how they install things because we were waiting on things to arrive. Is that kind of catching up, or is that still a
Slowly.
problem?
Slowly.
Slowly
It has us
catching
behind
up.
the gun on the interior finishes predominantly.
Right.
That's why when the board members were walked through it, it had to kind of be in a non-flowing way, just because we just don't have all of it put up.
Right.
And
Do
that's
you
just
think
really what
that
it is.
that potentially could delay the May of '23 opening date if these supply chain issues continue?
No, that's why we didn't specify an actual day in May,
Yeah,
so I think I
okay.
can get it within 30 days.
Good.
That's the hope for it. Really, to be honest with you, the next milestone is if we don't get those life systems online, we don't build out the furniture, and then you do miss the May deadline. So
Right.
that's what we're trying so hard to do.
Yeah.
Do we have an idea of the annual cost for this,
Operating
yeah.
expense, meaning staffing and maintenance and
No,
utilities?
just maintenance and utilities.
Yeah, those figures were provided and they're budgeted. I mean, I can come up in front of another board and tell you, but it would be less in year one because of your 1-year warranties on most of your main materials, your elevators and things like that. So most of those will be flushed out in year 2, but utilities and things like that, we can extrapolate, and we budgeted for those
Okay.
in our operating expenses like we do any building that we're building.
Okay, well, I would like to know the number whenever you have an opportunity to get that to me.
Sure.
Okay, other questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, we move now to discussion items for action. First up is 4.1 from Active Living and Parks, fiscal year '23 matching incentive grant request. And we are happy to have Ian Sweeney and Byron Hagler to talk about that item.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you so much for having us. And as Commissioner mentioned, we are here to present a recommendation from the Active Living and Parks Department for the Matching Incentive Grant Program. To give you the specifics of the applicants and a brief history of the program and what that's been able to do, I'd like to introduce Ian Sweeney, our Project and Event Manager, to give you those specifics. Thank you.
Thank you, Byron. Good evening, Commissioners. The Active Living and Parks Matching Incentive Grant Program provides seed money for civic, community, and school groups to construct, improve, or acquire recreational and park facilities in Cabarrus County. The projects must be on county, municipal, or school-owned land or leased to these entities for a minimum of 15 years. Since the program's inception in 1977, 1978, we've completed projects that tally $5,390,907, with the county contribution being less than half that total at $2,276,841, and that's over 300 separate projects completed. The Active Living and Parks Commission reviewed 2 requests and totaling $8,007 at their October 20th meeting. Weddington Hills Elementary's request for a playground fence, and Harrisburg Community and Youth Association's request for outdoor fitness equipment at Harrisburg Park. The commission unanimously recommended these projects in full, and this is the final round of applications for fiscal year '23, and if awarded, there would be a remaining balance of $30,368. We are requesting a motion to approve the FY23 matching incentive grant request and the related budget amendments recommended by the Active Living and Parks Commission. Thank you.
Okay, questions for Ian?
I don't really have a question, I just have a comment. You said that was, the inception was in 1977. Well, that's just a few years before Londa came on, so that means Londa's seen all of those.
Yeah, she told me that today.
Yeah, so are these grant requests, do they come in on cycles or
This-
anytime throughout the year? Is it twice a year?
We have 2 cycles. One, and we hear applications, or the Active Living and Parks Commission listens to applications in July. And then if awarded, if all the funds are spent, then we don't have Phase 2. In this particular case, we had Phase 2. We heard 2 more requests in our October meeting, and then they recommended they fund these 2 projects.
Thank you. I think it's an excellent program. It gives us an opportunity for community members to make contributions, and we're able to support that. So I appreciate the work of you and our Parks and Active Living Board as well in reviewing these projects.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we move now to item 4.2. These are appointments to boards and committees. You all should have received those in your information in your agenda prior to the meeting. Does anybody have any questions or comments about any of these appointments? If not, these will go on our consent agenda for approval at the regular meeting in 2 weeks. And those appointments are to the Metropolitan Planning Organization, the Human Services Advisory Board, as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Okay, if there's no questions or comments, we'll move to item 4.3. These are commissioner appointments for 2023. You all also have a copy of those before you. We tried to divide those up so that each commissioner had an equal number or very close to it. And so if anybody has any questions or concerns about any of those, you can voice that now, or you're welcome to talk with either me or our clerk between now and the regular meeting. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we will move to item 4.4, resolution establishing the Board of Commissioners 2023 meeting schedule. You also see that before you, which just basically outlines all of our work sessions and regular meeting for the upcoming year. There are a couple of holidays that are taken into account where we move and meet on a Tuesday. This also sets our quarterly summit meetings, as well as our budget, public hearing, and number of other dates. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that? Okay, hearing none, we will move to item 4.5, Cooperative Extension Service, budget amendments, and we are happy to have Tracy LeCompte here to talk about that item.
Hello, thank you. Good evening to everyone. Welcome to another year of the board, and welcome to our new members. A little background: Cooperative Extension has program supply area funding sources, and most of our program areas have funding sources where we have balanced incomes and expenses. So all of our income is funds that we solicit on our own and help to offset the cost of our program supply budgets. So we have two that we have had the pleasure of having more money come in than we had originally budgeted. So we are asking for an increase in 2 of our program areas because the first one, within our 4-H Canon grant, within our 4-H after-school program, they have increased our funding this year, and so we're able to receive a $30,000 grant from the Canon Foundation for our 4-H after-school program, and that serves all of our Kids Plus sites and curriculum, serves over 2,000 youth within that program. So that funding source is in that one. So you'll see that budget amendment in your packet that delineates how that's all broken down into the areas there. It does provide for a part-time staff member in our office to help with collecting that material, organizing it, sorting it all out, and sending it out the door. And serving all of those youth through that program. And then the other aspect is through our ag programs, and this would be our livestock and field crops programs. We have secured a little bit more funding than we had anticipated originally through the Carolina Farm Credit and our partners at Farm Bureau as well. So they gave us some extra money there to help offset some of the livestock show costs to help some of the youth be able to participate in those shows this year. So we increased that one by $2,000 as well. So you'll see both of them. They both are expense and income are both increased by that same amount. Not asking for any more money from the board, just allowing that budget amendment to go a little higher because we were able to bring in more money than we thought we were going to.
Would you be willing to come back next month and bring more money?
I actually have a BA for next month as well. It's been a very good year, and we have very great support across the board for all of Extension and all that Cooperative Extension does here in Cabarrus County. So we're very excited about doing such things. But yes, we will be back.
Excellent. Commissioners, do you have questions for Tracy?
The $30,000, from the Canon Foundation, is that how much they contribute each year? Or, because I see it since 20...
So we have had it since 2013. It does fluctuate. Last year was 25. The year before was 20.
Okay.
It has been as high this is the highest it's ever been. It has been usually between the $15,000 and $20,000 range generally.
Very generous of them.
Very much so. We are truly grateful.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We move now to item 4.6, easement for fiber optic lines at the Concord Senior Center, and we're happy to have Kelly Sifford for that item.
Thank you. The City of Concord staff reached out to me last month, and I guess they were auditing their files and realized that they had installed fiber optic lines on our property at the Concord Senior Center to improve the service there. And at that time, in 2018, I guess someone failed to get the proper easements associated with it. So they are asking us to provide that easement for the maintenance and access. And so that is all this is. It's very clean, simple.
So I'm kind of surprised that we get the service from the city of Concord. Is that what I'm hearing?
Todd? This is Todd's area of expertise.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So the City of Concord helps us, and we partner on many projects. This just happens to be one of them where they run fiber for a lot of their infrastructure. So in the support of their 911 centers and ours, they were running fiber out to the Mount Pleasant Tower, and as it passed our Concord Senior Center, we went ahead and tapped into that fiber connection. So that's this. But we also, they help us with the Board of Elections site on Church Street and several others.
Great. Okay, thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? All right, thank you. We move to item 4.7 from Department of Human Services, ARPA, Older Americans Act 3B funding, and we're happy to have Anthony Hodges to talk about that.
Good evening, Commissioners. As Commissioner Moore said, I'm Anthony Hodges. For those that don't know, I'm the Program Administrator for Adult and Aging Services and Transportation at DHS. And what I'm here tonight is, as many of you know, about a year or so ago, the federal government through the American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA funding, awarded quite a bit of funding to different government entities. And part of that funding went to the North Carolina Division of Aging and Adult Services. And they've been a little slower putting that money out than some, but About 5 or 6 months ago, we did get some money through them for our congregate nutrition program. But now they've we're awarding money for, it's called, through the Older Americans Act Title IIIB programs. And currently, the programs we have through Title IIIB are some of our HCCBG programs, adult daycare, in-home aid, basically anything except congregate and senior center funds. The stipulation with this new ARPA money was that we couldn't use it for any current programs. It had to be, they were looking for something new and innovative for counties or agencies to try to see if that's something that would be a long-term solution for some other things. So we presented a funding request to the money's through the Area Agency on Aging. So we presented a request to the Area Agency on Aging, and we're awarded $165,000 through that grant. And that funding runs through, we have through September of 2024 to spend that funding. And what we chose to do, just based on the needs that we see in the county, a couple different things. And by the way, there's no county match for this funding. It's all ARPA funding. The first thing we chose was, and the official title is chore services through their funding. But basically what it is one-time type or 1 or 2-time types of deep cleaning or decluttering. A lot of the homes we go into through Adult Protective Services or reports we get through home health agencies or home care agencies are a lot of homes that are extremely cluttered, have hoarding issues, extremely dirty, just because a lot of times the people, they can't manage anymore. They may have some hoarding issues and those kind of things. So there's a lot of those instances where cleaning up that house or getting that removed will alleviate an APS situation, or a lot of times American or home health or home care agencies won't go into the home until there's been some cleanup. So this funding will help us address those situations in the county. The other part that we're looking at for the money is to alleviate social isolation and loneliness in the county. And all this funding is since it's through the Older Americans Act, for individuals that are 60 and above. But just there's been quite a bit of research, a lot of things more lately about social isolation and loneliness, especially through COVID, but even before that. And just looking at our population right now in Cabarrus County, for those 60 plus, we have a little bit over 43,000 people in the county that are over 60, a little bit over 30,000 that are 65 plus. And of those 65 plus, over 5,700 live by themselves. And a lot of the research on isolation and loneliness shows that there's a lot of health risk to that, not just the mental health, but also physical health. It increases a person's risk of premature death from all causes, increases the risk of heart disease and stroke, risk of stroke, higher rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide. So we're looking at that to try to help alleviate that, and we're doing that through a three-pronged approach. The first part of the funding, or part of it, is for staffing to pay for personnel. It'll be part of a position, actually, we're getting ready to hire those approved in the 2022 budget. But we're going to split that position, and that position will manage this program as far as setting it up and managing and directing the program. Another part is a technology part where we'll be able to purchase tablets or other types of items for people that are isolated, so that if they're not able to get out, they will be able to address, they'll be able to have contact through electronic means or through virtual means. And then the last thing that the part that the position will do is a volunteer recruitment coordinator. We'll try to heavily recruit through churches and other areas, other agencies, volunteers, and the goal is to set up a friendly visitor program with these individuals, and also a telephone reassurance program. So that is our plan for these funds. And again, so I just ask that you would accept the grant and adopt the budget amendment. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Anthony?
So how many positions would this be creating?
Well, we had a position that was approved in the 2022 budget for one of our other programs because of the waitlist changes in the state as far as wait lists and those things. Those numbers, so we had planned on hiring that position in January anyway.
And that position was for?
It's for the Special Assistance In-Home Program.
Okay.
Those numbers haven't grown quite as high as we thought they were, so basically I'm going to split that position in half. That position will do half SA In-Home, and then we'll manage this program of the volunteer recruitment.
Okay, and so now what happens whenever the money for this program is exhausted? Then what will happen to that position?
Well, and again, the hope, of course, is that once we should have a couple years of this, then the state or the federal government would fund it more. Of course, there's no guarantee to that. And as the other positions that is don't get, if we don't get funding for this, we'll either incorporate some of the way in that position. Those numbers will continue to grow with that other position.
And then you mentioned a volunteer coordinator?
It's the same position. They're doing
Okay,
both of
okay.
those. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Other questions? Sounds like an excellent program. I know you mentioned earlier the congregate meal program, which I've had the opportunity to visit those several times.
Yes,
And I
sir.
think more than the nutrition piece of it is the socialization piece of it. Getting folks out of their home, interacting with other people is critically important. And so to do this for those that cannot leave their homes, it's been my privilege to do Meals on Wheels for a number of years, and I always comment that the people that you visit are always so happy to see you,
Yes, sir.
because a lot of times that is the only contact that they have with the outside world. So I see how all of these things are extremely beneficial.
Yes, sir.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any
Thank all
other
of you.
questions or comments?
Sorry.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we move now to item 4.8 from Legal Department, Duke Energy easement for Cox Mill High School. We're happy to have David Goldberg to talk about that item.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is David Goldberg. I'm the Deputy County Attorney. The Cabarrus County Schools is planning to place several modular units on the property of Cox Mill High School. And to service those additional units, Duke Energy is requesting an easement on the property to be able to serve those units. This is a little bit noteworthy because we still have deed title on the Cox Mill High School, and that's why it has to be approved by the commission rather than just the schools. The other point to point out is they want to be clear is usually we would do these by underground access. Unfortunately, there's about a year lead time, I've been told, for the transformers necessary to do these underground. So it will be overhead at least temporarily for a period of time as they work through that. And I've verified with the schools, they are in agreement where these lines are going to be, and it is necessary to service the units that they're having planned there. If there's any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Questions for David? Okay, thank you. I guess one comment, for the benefit of the public, you mentioned about the title to the school. If I'm not mistaken, typically the schools are in the county's name as long as we have debt on them. Once those are paid off, we typically then transfer those to the name of the school system. Is that correct?
That is correct, Commissioner. The way we finance most of our schools is akin to a mortgage. So the property is used, since the county is responsible for building and funding these schools, the county issues the bonds necessary to build them, and it maintains title to those schools while they are used for collateral for these financing. Once the debt is paid off over time, they're usually retitled over to the school systems for their ownership and maintenance.
Great, thank you. Okay, we move now to item 4.9 from the library, revised rules and regulations for library patrons, and we're happy to hear from Kelly Sifford on that one.
Thank you. Melanie was unable to join us tonight. She is with some friends of the library. So over the past couple of years, we've had kind of increased issues with patron behavior at some of our facilities. When I started reviewing our old policy, and I do have hard copies of the old policy, I realize some of you may have not have seen that before. If you would like that, I'm happy to provide that. When a patron does cause problems, the staff usually approaches them, talks to them, offers them a copy of our rules for the library. It was rather long and cumbersome and a little bit overwhelming, I think. So I worked with David Goldberg, and we revised those. The content really did not change. There's nothing new that's against the rules or nothing that's, it's really changed. What we did was condense it down and give a little more flexibility to staff rather than literally naming everything that they could possibly do that might be against the rules. Kind of gave them a little more flexibility. So if someone's just being disruptive, whatever that disruption is, they can talk to them about it. And the next step of this will be that we will get smaller postcard versions of the rules made up so that we can approach this, any patron that may be having issues in a more friendly way, and also post those at the doors in a friendly way. Right now, it's just too long to really do it in kind of any reasonable fashion. So that is our goal for this, and that's what we're working on, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Kelly?
Are most of the issues at the Concord branch?
Generally, between there and Kannapolis, the other branches tend to be a little quieter. But, these can apply to children running around screaming or, so it could be any kind of issue. As you know, many of our branches are pretty crowded right now. Some of them are having to run multiple programs to accommodate all of the people. So there's a lot of people coming in and out. So I think, that kind of contributes to some of the noise levels and all that. So these are efforts to help us approach people in a friendly way.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that completes our discussion items for action. We move now to the approval of our regular meeting agenda. You all have a copy of that before you. If there are any changes or adjustments that you feel are necessary there, please say so. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve the regular meeting agenda as presented.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. That does complete our agenda for this evening. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, before we adjourn, I wanted to make a public announcement real quickly.
Yes, sir.
We hadn't discussed this, by the way, but recently, the Cabarrus Visitors Bureau had a gala event that was held, and some of our people that are here tonight were recognized, and Londa Strong is here tonight. I wanted to recognize you, Londa, for your recognition through the Cabarrus Visitors Bureau. Thank you for your participation in that and for everything that you've done all these 50 years. But not really quite that long. But and then our own Chairman Morris was recognized as the hometown hero. And I don't know about the hero part, but he still got the award. And I wanted everybody to know that.
Okay.
And Steve, I thank you for all that you do, not only for that, but for this board and for the effort that you put forward to help make Cabarrus County a better place. And that was my public announcement.
Great, thank you, sir. Okay, any other comments? If there are none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Meismer, a second from Commissioner Strang. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. We stand adjourned. Thank you.